Gosh, that's a great question. I don't know if I've ever been asked that. Like, what is the it factor?
The It Factory is back for season 2. Last season, we explored what the It Factory is, who has it, and how they got it. This season, we still seek to answer the same questions, but with a new cast of characters. We take the helmet off some of the new faces in the Conference of Champions, and some familiar faces as well. Players, coaches, and experts will explore what it is that sets them up for success on Saturdays. I'm Yogi Roth, and welcome back to the It Factory. Welcome back, or welcome to the It Factory presented by Zayo. I'm your host, Yogi Roth, and it's hard to believe here we are in spring. Spring ball is happening. The draft is almost around the corner, and today we get to talk to one of the greats. You may know him as Weddle's beard. We know him as someone who has overcome many things to become an elite player in college, of course, a Super Bowl champion in the NFL, almost 15 years as a player in the NFL and in the Utah Hall of Fame. That's right, Eric Weddle joins the show. Eric, how are you, man?
Yogi, how are you, buddy? I'm doing great. Excited to be on with you and talk some shop.
Heck yeah. Well, first of all, great setup back there. Like, did you do that? Did you assemble all those jerseys?
Yeah. Over the course of my career, just some guys that meant a lot to me and have relationships with. And, you know, that's what the game means to me is the guys and the people that you meet, the relationships you build that'll last a lifetime. And it's a daily reminder of those relationships that mean the world to me, and hope to continue that going on at the next adventure.
Yeah, it reminds me of something. I heard a podcast. One of my favorite conversations ever was between Kobe Bryant and Jay Shetty. It was about storytelling. And he talked about when he retired, he created an office much like yours. And on his wall, he had what he called his muses, like different storytellers, filmmakers, writers, performers, athletes like you have there. What does it take for you to say, you know, this is an impactful relationship? Because you have met countless people who have achieved success.
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, when I first got in the league, I was drafted by the Chargers to basically take the older guys' jobs. So in 2007, the league was much different in the sense of, you know, older style football, you know, two-a-days every day, pads every day, like much more just a different world in a sense. So I didn't have many older guys looking out for me. I didn't have many guys to look up to. So I was kind of fending off for myself for his couple years. And after a couple seasons, I just felt like that wasn't me. And at any time a younger guy came in as a safety or a DB or even on the offense side of the ball, it didn't matter. Like I was always trying to help those guys out. It's not easy being in the NFL and trying to manage everything, the expectations, the responsibilities, everything on the outside, you know, trying to manage it all. And from that point on, I would reach out to younger safeties, whether they're drafted or not, and just let them know that I'm there for them, both on the field and off, and you ever need someone to talk to. And that's how it kind of all started. And a lot of the safeties up there, you know, I'm a loyal guy. I'm a loyal friend. I'll do anything for you. And when that's reciprocated, man, it builds a bond. It builds that friendship, and we become family. And all these guys, that's how it started. And to continue this today, I mean, Griff has the same birthday as mine, and you know, we text each other every year. Big Ben, I text him right now, and he texts me back. So when you have those relationships, you want to hold tight to them because they're few and far between.
Yeah, I think so often in the sport that we love so much, you are known for the armor you put on, how you compete with the helmet on, and we don't always take the helmet off, which is literally the reason why we even started this podcast, was to do that. So for you, what I think is fascinating is here you are, two-star athlete out of high school, Utah's your lone offer, and then you just talked about the pressure you felt being the dude in the NFL. Like, when you look back on that, what would you prefer? Like, minimal expectations from the outside or big time expectations from others?
I think you have to learn how to cope with all that stuff. And I came from college where I was beloved. I'm not sure. There may be a handful of guys that maybe or ladies that didn't like me, like the way I played. But then you get to the NFL and the expectation and the pressure is you gotta come in and be that guy right away. And that it took me probably to my third year where I started showing like, hey, this is the guy that we drafted. It didn't happen overnight, and a lot of people did not like that. A lot of people were calling me a bust. A lot of people were saying I should have been drafted, yeah. And you have to be able to learn. It took me a couple years to learn it, but just to completely block all that stuff out. In the sense that I'm not wasting 1 second on people that don't know me, don't know how hard I work, don't know the commitment level I have. I'm focusing my energy on my family, my teammates, and the organization, right? And as soon as you kind of take that approach, your play just skyrockets, right? Because the focus, the mental capacity that you put into the things that matter. So I think it's a twofold. Like I loved the pressure. I love being the best, right? I love all that stuff, and you don't get that anywhere else but at the highest level. So that in that sense, I love it. But the atmosphere, the family, the identity of just college football, and how much you grow from an 18-year-old to a 22-year-old is so much growth, and you can really nurture and motivate and inspire those kids, because the odds are I don't know what the stats are for each program, but a Division I football player, I think 90% of them aren't going to the NFL. And then even if they do, they're not lasting long. So what's next, right? How are you preparing them for the next step, the real world? So I like that, and I enjoyed that time as well. Because once you get to the league, man, it's a business. It's a dog eat world. Like you're dealing with grown men, families, kids. I'm doing whatever it takes to provide for my family, and it's a balance of having the confidence in yourself to be able to give back to the younger guys and teach them and help their careers. But a lot of guys aren't confident in themselves enough to do that. So it's a distinct, like, hey, we're just teammates and that's it. And I tried to be the other side of that.
That's incredible, and you know that, and now you're head coach of a high school football team here in Southern California as well. So you're seeing it even more up close, I'm sure, every day with the next generation of potential college or NFL players. I say that because my favorite quote in the last year was when I heard at the Heisman. I went and I covered it for the Pac-12 Network. Caleb Williams, of course, won it. And he said this quote in his speech that I play to every high school athlete and parent I'm ever around, which is the following: I learned to look in the mirror and like the man looking back. And I feel like now athletes often at times look into their phone and see how much people like them or love them and double tap on them. And sometimes when they look at themselves, they're like, I don't know, like, it's that whole element of, am I a fraud, right? Imposter syndrome, etc. Like, what would you say? I know you called NFL safeties, but what would you say to like the guys going from high school to college who are dealing with this now, and the identity being one thing outside the facility and another inside it?
Yeah, that's it's obviously a conversation and topic that's on everybody's mind, especially as a coach at that level, and trying to find that balance. And the ultimate goal for me as a coach is to motivate and inspire and to teach these guys to be great leaders in the community, future fathers and husbands that will excel in those roles. And the very few that are able to have the ability to go play Division I, then I'm going to help them do that as well. But the reality is 99% of high school kids aren't playing elite college football. And that's sometimes hard to hear for parents, sometimes hard to hear for the kids. But that's where I think I can come in and just be honest and say, hey, it's hard, man. It's hard. Not everyone makes it. And even when you go, you don't even make it then, right? Transfers and this and that. So the emphasis is, how do we grow these men into leaders, into accountable human beings, and understanding of the focus and time and energy is that's spent on things that you can't control is wasted time, wasted energy. Focus your energy on the controllables, your attitude, your performance, how you treat people, how you go to work, how you get things done, how you're a good teammate, how you're a good sibling, how you treat your parents, right? Do you do community service? Like, those are the things that matter, not how much likes you get on a post, not how much how you looked in some bogus 7-on-7 tournament that is a money grab. Like, none of that stuff matters. Okay. The coaches that are recruiting you want to see good people that work hard and treat people right. And then everything else is secondary on the football side.
You mentioned community service, and in prepping for this, the producer TJ Brassel and myself, we took a deep dive on you, and I know you pretty well, I think, but I didn't know what your major was. Special education major, and you were like dramatically active in community service in Utah. Like, what led to that? Is there something in your background or in how you grew up that led you to major in that and throw down on the community as you were battling for a role within a team?
Yeah, so in high school, my senior year, my basketball coach was a special education teacher at the high school, and I happened to be a teacher aide for him. And that kind of got the ball rolling. My parents were, I love them to death, hardworking. Like, they were very adamant. You do things right, you work hard, you get good grades, and you go off to college and try to get an education, right? And that's not saying that college is the only route. Like, you can go into a certain field. There's other ways to be successful nowadays. You don't always have to go to college, but for me, that's what it was. And I didn't want to get a degree in a certain subject. I wasn't passionate enough about a certain subject to be able to coach. And back then in California, you had to teach to be able to coach. So I was like, what's the next best avenue? So my senior year there, then I go to the University of Utah, and I'm going through my general ed, and I just kept coming back to my experiences in high school with kids with learning disabilities and how much I felt in the moment they got the short end of the stick, and how they are just like everybody else that deserve an opportunity and the love and kindness and support that all these other kids do. So that's kind of how I gravitated towards that. Then I went into my major. I still have my student teaching done, but the whole goal was to teach and coach high school football. That was my dream, right? My dream was never to play in the NFL because I thought that was something that was unattainable and never even crossed my mind until, I started playing on Sundays. And even then, I'd wake up just with a smile on my face because I'm like, this is insane. Like, billions of people wish they were me, and I'm going to go make the most of it.
Wow. That's incredible. As your career continued in the NFL, like, you started at Utah and you had obviously a legend in Kyle Whittingham, mentor you on the defensive side. I was there. My first year in broadcasting was the Fiesta Bowl.
Oh, nice.
My beloved Pitt Panthers. Nice for you, not nice for us. Not nice for us.
Shouldn't have been in that game.
No. I remember watching you and Morgan Scalley at practice being like, ooh, we might be a little trouble here with these two guys. But I say all that. You've had a lot of different leaders, right? Sean McVay was the last coach you played for, but you can go to Harbaugh, you can go to Wade Phillips, you can go to Norv Turner. Like, you've had a lot of different leadership styles presented to you. How have you developed your own now that you're leading young men and you've been mentoring people through the majority of your career?
Yeah, that's great. I think a little bit of each of those three. Coach Witt, I love how he's adapted over 20 years, right? He's not the same head coach that he was when he took over in 2005 than he is right now. And just being able to evolve and adapt and listen, right? Like, so oftentimes coaches are so pigeonholed into what they think is right or what they feel is the right way to do things. Like, the game's always changing, and there's oftentimes better ways or more efficient ways to do things. And having a little humility about yourself and having enough guys around you that you can trust, that they can come to you and say, hey, coach, like, maybe there's a better way to do this, and then not getting all flustered. So Coach Witt, and that's it. And then Harbs and Coach McVay from Norv, I loved his loyalty. He always backed his players, and no matter what, when we won, it was about the players. When we lost, it was his, and he didn't get to do a good enough job. And that's how I am. That's what I tell my players, to be free. To who cares about mistakes? If mistakes happen, they're on me. And that's how I was as a player with my teammates. So they could just be free and let me do the thinking for them. And then we go out into Coach Harbs and McVay. McVay was so adamant about communication. And if something is wrong or something isn't getting done, communicate, right? Come talk to me. Let's figure this out together. So he was very upfront with communicating, and then the standard, the we not me attitude of football, and how it takes everybody. And then Harbs is just like he's a confident, he's a leader of men, and I felt he did a great job of listening to the guys that he trusted, meaning players, right? So he respected me when I came there. Then I earned his respect even more by my accountability, by my work ethic, how I treated people, how I treated my teammates, how I'm trying to get the best out of every day. So when there were things that came up, right, on a Wednesday after week 7, and we're pretty beat up, and we got full pads on the schedule, and I go up to him in the morning like, hey coach, like, talking to some of the guys, we're pretty beat up, maybe it's better to just go no pads today. And then him taking that information, whether he believed it or not, at least he listened, and then he made a decision after that. And as a head coach, you're managing a lot of personalities, a lot of variables, and for me, I just hope that I continue to just listen to everybody and then make a decision based on the information that's provided.
I read an excerpt from a book that someone wrote about your life, which I'm sure was an interesting experience. But it talked about how you got hit with a baseball in your eye socket, and your eyeball moved back, I think like a quarter of an inch or something like that. You almost went blind, almost lost your vision. But you were destined to kind of go play baseball up until that moment. And then you didn't, it seemed as though from the excerpt, like you weren't confident enough to go play that sport again, and you walked away. So I'm curious your relationship with fear, and when you look back on that now after everything you've done and the coaches you just mentioned that you played for, how you define that.
Yeah, so a little backstory. So fear, I don't fear anything, and I live with no regrets. I live each day the fullest. So that's who I am now. In high school, like you said, my junior year, halfway, 3/4 of the way of my junior year, playing center field, leadoff, one of the top players in Southern Cal, and I took a fastball straight to my face and cracked my cheekbone, fractured my eye socket, and I was out for about 3 weeks, and I came back for the playoff run because we hadn't been in the playoffs, and I just couldn't hit. I couldn't get in the batter's box and sit in there like how I used to. Nothing changed in the field. And it wasn't so much of fear. It was just, I couldn't, I was gun shy, like you were so good. And then now if I had taken a full season off, let me fully get away from the game and then came back, I probably would have came back, but just coming back too quick. And then I never loved baseball. I was just that much better at baseball than I was at football at the time. And I was really good at football, but it was a distinct difference. And recruiting is even crazier now, but back then there wasn't all this internet craze. It was VHS going out to the colleges, and wasn't really a big database to see where everyone was at. So I just put my money on football, in the sense of that's where I love. Football and basketball are my true loves, and baseball, I just did it because that's what you do. Everyone plays baseball. So fortunate in that sense, things happen for a reason. I look back, and no doubt that Heavenly Father had a plan in my life, and not knowing it in the moment, but how things come full circle. I'm extremely blessed and grateful for the way things turned out.
Yeah. So as things were started to unfold in your career, you get to Utah, You win over your teammates. You start to play at a high level, at an All-American level. Then you go to the NFL. You go through the illustrious career, finish up with a Super Bowl. At one point where you're like, oh, this is dope. Like, this is like a movie script. I didn't know it could be this good. This is reality. And did you have to pinch yourself, or were you really connected to, this is the vision, I'm gonna outwork you, and let's go?
I think that's twofold, right? Because I'm with both of those. That's how I was, right? I was in the moment. When I stepped on the field on Sundays and I crossed that white line, I knew without a doubt no one worked harder than me. And I knew in that moment I was already had a leg up on my competition, both studying film, both working out, preparation, taking care of yourself. Like, there wasn't anybody close. So mentally, I felt like I had the edge over everybody. But I'm not going to sit here and say every time in the tunnel when I'm getting my name announced that I sat there for a good 2 seconds and said, is this really happening? Right? Am I really about to run out in the NFL? Like, even up until the Super Bowl, I'm just like sitting there. How can this be possible for someone like me? Seriously. I mean, I look back and I know I got all the memorabilia and all these memories. I still think it was just a long dream that I was in, and now I'm back into reality, because I just look at those guys as mythical, special beings that guys like me, just don't happen. But hopefully I'm an example that good things happen, that if you work hard and you try to do things right. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes all the time, like everybody else. But if you're trying your best will be good enough.
Yeah. Utah, your team, your school, your hat, your chair you're in, right? The jerseys. Yep. It's a special program. The Pac-12 is their league right now. Back-to-back champs. You've been there. You've seen it in person. You played, as you referenced, in a huge game in the Super Bowl. Biggest game, at least from an outsider's perspective, of your life. In college football, every game is kind of that. Like, there's not room for error. What advice would you give to this year's team, knowing that they all came back for that quote-unquote last dance, and you having achieved the dream in terms of winning a ring in the Super Bowl and being on a big stage? How would you tell them in terms of their approach to the upcoming season?
I mean, just keep it as simple, and don't try to overcook it. Like, it's simple. The game of football is the same when we played. It's the same distance when you're playing Pop Warner. The lines are the same. Obviously, the hash marks change in the NFL, but football is football. It's who blocks, who protects, who tackles the best, who doesn't turn the ball over. Like, it's the same thing at each level of how you win in that game. And whether it's the biggest game of your life or not, you just have to prepare and do your routine that you always do. So then you just let it fly on Saturday or Sundays, right? Like, you prepare and you mentally do the things necessary. So the game is easy at that point, right? Like, you've replayed the game over and over in your mind of every set, of every formation, or what they're going to do. They're going to check to this. We give this look. This is what I'm going to be looking for. Like, you've already done all that. So there should be no real reason to be in the moment and you're not ready to dominate. The only times that is the case is if you didn't do your work throughout the week. And I've been in those times where I didn't prepare as good as I was, and I'm in that game swimming because I'm not confident in what I'm seeing and what I'm doing. And it's a good reminder that you prepare and you put all your effort into what your job entails and your role within the team. You'll go out there and play good.
Sure, you're getting a lot of calls from people in the NFL around a fellow DB at Utah, Clark Phillips.
Yeah.
What are you telling GMs, scouts, secondary coaches, head coaches about another All-American in the back end from Utah?
Well, just not what he brings only on the field, but what he brings to your locker room, and his accountability, his work ethic, his the camaraderie within the team. Like, a lot of that gets passed by at the NFL. Some teams value that, other teams don't. You want to take a less athlete who's a great locker room, who has great work ethic. You're not going to have to worry about him. You take him 100 times out of 100 times. And the teams that do have great culture, they have great organizations, and they usually have great teams. Take a flyer on some of these guys, you just don't know. You don't know how it's going to work out. Do they have the right attributes to be a great pro? A lot of times it doesn't work out. And there are many reasons for that. But Clark checks all those boxes. So I think he's going to be a valued commodity, play inside and out. He's physical, can tackle, obviously can run, got good hips. He's smart. He knows how to study already. So I think once teams get him in the room and start talking shop with him and get to know who he is as a person, like his value will go even higher than obviously what he is on a football field.
Totally co-sign on that. All right, I call this our final 5. Last 5 questions. First thought, first reaction. Question number 1. The best advice you've ever received is what?
Control what you can control. Don't worry about all the crap that means nothing to you or doesn't have an effect on your life. Just control what you can control.
The worst advice you've ever received is what?
Worry about what others think. If they're not in your inner circle, don't take 1 second worrying about what they think of you.
If you were playing now in this Utah team, you think Coach Witt allows you to go both ways like you did back in the day a little bit?
No chance. We got way too many good players to have a guy get back there and take a couple carries from some other guys. But back then, you just did whatever you could to try to get some wins.
I love that. Hey, you were a baller in high school too, man. I keep finding ways to get you the ball. The title of this show is The It Factory. And I believe that phrase, the It Factor, is the most overused and often undefinable phrase, but you know it when you see it. You have it, you had it. How would you define, looking back now, your It Factor, Eric?
That's great. I mean, what separated me from, I feel, everyone else was my commitment to being the best every single day, whether it was in season or off season. And that trickled down to my home life and being a great father, being a great husband. Because when you look at your whole circle and your whole career, I wouldn't have been able to have the success and the career I had without my wife by my side and holding it down and enabling me to go be great, right? And to sacrifice time and effort and away from the kids and all those things, and understanding that she has my support. She was a collegiate athlete, got a scholarship to Utah State, play soccer. So she got it, she understood it, and just, what are you willing to do to be the best? And I was willing to do whatever it took, right, in the parameters, right? I'm not going to any bad stuff, but that's how I felt I separated myself. No one was going to outwork me. No one was going to do more than me on a daily basis. And I love the game. I love what the game brings to me and brought to me. And the relationships that you create, you need to cherish because they can last a lifetime. And I think, in a sense, I'm different in that way as well.
So many experiences that you've had in your sporting life. How would you complete the following sentence? It all comes down to what?
It all comes down to putting your time and energy to what matters most. And each individual is different. Is that your family? Is it your faith? Is it your education, sports? Focus your time and energy to what will make you the very best in that, right? And then channel it through everything else. Have it just be a part of who you are. And, out of experience, it's helped my life tremendously in all facets of my life.
So well said. Coach Weddle, the head coach now in Southern California. You always have a spot on our set at the Pac-12 Network. So I know you're doing the football thing. Okay. Utah, keep winning. You keep coming. I really appreciate the time. We've been trying to do this for a while. Thank you for making it happen. On my wall of all-time interviews, this is definitely on that list, man. So thank you for impacting those listening and myself.
You got it, Yogi. Thanks for having me on, and I'm sure we'll see each other this upcoming season.
Heck yeah. There it is. Weddle's beard, Eric Weddle. So much depth to him, so much knowledge, insight into his career, his past, his path, and who he is today. I enjoyed that one tremendously. Learned a lot about him that I didn't just know. His experiences, where he's been, and where he's taking, and how he's using those experiences to impact the next generation. How can't you be inspired? So there it is. Eric Weddle. Share it with a friend. To check it out, just go to pack-12.com/insider or search podcasts wherever you listen to them. Just put in Yogi Roth, The It Factory. This episode will pop right up. And Utah fans, I know you love this, so share it with a friend. And the Muss, I hope you're listening to this one as well. Peace. It's the Afterglow. Dun, dun, dun. DJ Brasso, Yogi Roth here. Post Eric Weddle. He's been on our list since we started working on this show 2 years ago. We finally get it done around draft time, spring football. Takeaways, something you wish we asked him.
That was a super insightful interview. Just at the end there, him talking about how sometimes NFL really just felt like a dream. Like he was like, he'd be in it, but like sometimes he'd be in the tunnel and be like, am I really doing this right now? Like that's such a cool thing to know that like even the guys who are at the like elite of the elite, they have their moments where they kind of sit back and are like, yeah, I really got here. And then there's his other moments where when you were talking about like the baseball stuff and he was like, no, I don't fear anything. Like, it's like, it's two different things. It's like has no fear, out playing with his hair on fire. And then before the game, that's like a moment of reflecting. And then it's like, all right, let's go. One of the things that I thought was really cool when he was talking about like his reasoning behind being a special education major. And when you pointed out him giving back to the community, I always think that it's really cool and really important when, whether it's a college athlete or at the pro level, people give back to the community. That being said, as cool as the entire interview was, what I kind of wanted when he logged on and we saw that room, which was just so cool, and saw all the jerseys behind him, honestly, my first thought was like, okay, which jersey meant the most to him? Like, what's the story of like, which is the one that he got that he was like, that's really cool.
Yeah. Totally. We're on the same page. I wanted to like keep pulling on that thread because you look at it and at first glance, I was like, oh, those are a bunch of his jerseys. And then like you look at it for more than 5 seconds and you're like, oh no, it's not just his or his teammates from Utah or the NFL, but it's players he's never played with and players maybe he's played against. And I loved, I wanted to ask him more about that, but I loved how he created that. And I loved what he said about when players came into the NFL at his position, he always called them. And I think he's such a fun spirit and enjoyable human to be around that you can kind of lose sight of like he's not sitting at 6'3" and he didn't run a 4.3. Like this is a guy that earned it. And I really enjoyed the journey that he took us on of, getting hit in the face with the baseball and coming back too soon, as he said, was scary. Like it led him kind of away from the game at that stage. But as he grew as a performer, as a competitor, like he began to see adversity maybe a little bit differently, and his awareness around it, take a little time off. Like things like that, I think was really cool to hear.
Yeah, no, I agree. And especially when he was like, I was probably better at baseball than I was at football. And I'm like, well, you made the NFL in football. So like, what would have happened in baseball there?
So there it is, the Afterglow. Stay safe. Share the episode with a friend. Peace.